the smartest film critic in the world, Cole Smithy.
Hi, this is Cole Smithy with ColeSmithy.com and your guide to what to see and what to avoid at the movies this week. All movies are political, all movies are propaganda, some more so than others. Imagine a movie entitled Russian Marksman. Visualize one named Israeli Shooter.
Let me ask you a question, Chris. Would you be surprised if I told you that the Navy has credited you with over 160 kills?
These simple titles offhandedly refer to military occupations currently taking place in oppressed countries. As a Palestinian living under occupation, you probably wouldn't be pleased to see Israeli Shooter playing at your local cinema. These corollary film titles evoke racist ideologies once you consider that modern wars are motivated by imperialist agendas seeking to kill, humiliate, and rob weaker cultures of their natural resources and cultural identities. The capitalist ideology of war is built on the intrinsic basis of racism. So it follows that Hollywood's current system serves as the corporate-controlled U.S. government's most visible means of spreading its xenophobic political agenda next to Fox News. Thanks, Warner Brothers. Thanks a lot. American Sniper is a war movie built more on fantasy than reality. It would be more correctly categorized in the war fantasy genre shared by films such as Jack Starrett's The Losers or Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Basterds. If you want to see recent movies that fit more accurately into the war genre designation, you could check out Kimberly Pierce's Stop Loss or Paul Haggis's In the Valley of Ella. Stop Loss is especially germane to American Sniper because it exposes the U.S. military's treacherous and unprecedented policy of sending soldiers back for 2, 3, 4, or even more tours of duty, pushing combatants past their breaking points and into walking time bombs. Chris Kyle, the film's real-life sniper, completed 4 tours of duty in Iraq. The average U.S. soldier in Vietnam completed just 1 tour of duty, as did soldiers in World War II and the Korean War. It's revealing that Senator John McCain felt obligated to speak up in defense of American Sniper, a one-note piece of cinematic propaganda so obnoxious that it threatens to undermine the very nature of its intended effect. The Hollywood military scriptwriting machine can't compete with Paul Verhoeven when it comes to creating nuanced cinematic propaganda. See Starship Troopers, a brilliant example of anti-war satire. In the same way that the internet has liberated hordes of people from the oppression of religious doctrine, atheism has exploded exponentially around the globe in the past 10 years, it is possible that American Sniper's enormous box office success will backfire as more people wake up to the con game that America's corporate political military junta is running. Consider Scientology's prison of belief. Their membership is in steady decline since the internet exposed the Scientology con game for what it is. American Sniper is catching a wellspring of justified criticism that the movie is doomed to soak in forevermore. U.S. soldiers have a lot in common with religious zealots. Their blind faith enables them to kill without question. Chris Kyle sported a blood-red Crusader cross tattoo to make his Christian faith obvious to those around him. He worships at a bloody altar. In American Sniper, hero worship is everything. Chris Kyle is nicknamed Legend. We hear the tag a lot throughout the film.
Hey! Tend to my daughter, please, right now!
Savages is the epithet applied to the Iraqi freedom fighters that oppose their U.S. occupiers in once vibrant cities that are now reduced to rubble. Chris Kyle's first kill in the movie is a child soldier whose mother passes him a grenade to throw at a crew of heavily armed American soldiers stationed around an armored security vehicle. How and why does it occur that the film's intended American audience doesn't choose to empathize with the brave Iraqi mother and child whose military-aged male relatives and friends have all been killed or hauled off to prison? Guillo Pontecorvo's classic 1966 resistance film, The Battle of Algiers, eloquently addresses this question with a cinema verite-style depiction of the French occupation of Algeria. The Battle of Algiers extrapolates on historic truisms regarding occupations from the perspective of the occupied freedom fighters, i.e., occupied people always fight harder and better than their occupiers because they have more at stake. And in the end, resistance fighters always win. Take Afghanistan, for example. The British couldn't take it despite 3 attempts, the Russians got chased out, and now the Taliban are stronger than ever after handing the American military's ass on a sand-covered plate, albeit in trillions of pieces. How would you respond if you were in a similar situation in which most of your town's buildings had been leveled by foreign occupiers who can't even speak your language and yet kick in your doors at 5 a.m. to violate your every mode of dignity? History has proven time and time again exactly how you would respond. Just like the desperate mother and son that we see Chris Kyle kill with single shots from his well-hidden sniper's position. Clearly, Chris Kyle was not a student of history. In his book, Chris Kyle said that he was not a fan of politics. He failed to see, however, that he was its victim. A particularly repulsive scene in American Sniper shows Chris's father at the dinner table with his wife and 2 young sons. Dad preaches a brand of Christian indoctrination as dogmatic and dubious as anything in Islamic scripture when he distills humanity into 3 types: sheep, sheepdogs, and wolves. Papa Kyle detests bullies, and yet fails to recognize his own reflection in their mirror. The ferociously angry father insists that his sons be sheepdogs, protecting those weaker than them. Throughout the film, Chris Kyle repeats his vociferous desire to protect his fellow soldiers, unrepentant bullies like him, whom he mistakes for guardians of America. He talks as if he is the oppressed freedom fighter doing battle with occupiers on his own home soil. Talk about twisted and confused. Forget that America went to war with Iraq under false pretenses concerning non-existent weapons of mass destruction, or that the big oil interests that pushed for Bush Jr.'s invasion of Iraq led Americans to believe that the Iraq War was directly linked to avenging the perpetrators of 9/11. Everybody and his sister knows that the Iraq War was always only ever about oil and the ever-growing greed of the military-industrial complex. American Sniper is an artless, nuance-free hate piece built on insultingly unsound narrative ground. That Clint Eastwood got roped in to be a party to such a nasty bit of business will forever tarnish his career. But who cares? As long as patriotic, read sheep-like American audiences walk around with shouts of "Hoo-yah!" which means heard, understood, acknowledged, rattling around in their dumb little heads, then America's corporate political military junta has done its job.
Oh my God! I'm ready to come home.
Their big mistake lies in presuming that Americans are that dumb to begin with. Message to the Hollywood political military junta: we know more than you do, and we know what to do with our knowledge. I give American Sniper an F. My sleeper pick is Celine Sciamma's Girlhood, and my guilty pleasure pick is The Loft. My must-have DVDs are Kihachi Okamoto's The Sword of Doom from the Criterion Collection, The Retrieval from Kino Lorber, and Sex Ed, the movie from First Run Features.
When we met, I felt my life begin. Open up your heart.
In 1963, experimental filmmaker Kenneth released Scorpio Rising, a groundbreaking 30-minute revelry of fetishized homoerotic iconography set against a soundtrack of unlicensed pop songs from the likes of Ricky Nelson and Ray Charles. The rebellious effect of Anger's dynamic musical counterpoint creates a bold sense of romanticized rock and roll nostalgia that informed later filmmakers such as Martin Scorsese see Mean Streets. Anger's mobile, moving camera fawns over the clothes and boots of a black-haired motorcycle enthusiast who patterns his macho style on Marlon Brando's Johnny Strabler character from The Wild One and James Dean in Rebel Without a Cause. With long sideburns, slicked back hair, and a cigarette dangling from his lips, here is a brother to the hot rod kids of the 50s who picked up where their soldier fathers left off, creating cool cars from cheap parts easily found in junkyards. The muscled young man slaves over putting together a show bike motorcycle that sits in pieces in his garage. Little Peggy March's rarely heard love song, Wind Up Doll, plays as the audience is left to contemplate the significance of a human skull that sits inside a shroud that hovers over the mechanic and his bike. Implied is the motorcycle rider's constant awareness of the danger that the blissful act of riding his carefully maintained bike presents. An intercut sequence shows a prepubescent version of the young man playing with wind-up tin motorcycle toys. David Lynch might never have thought to make Blue Velvet had he not been inspired by a sequence in which the haunting Bobby Vinton song plays over a lithe biker buckling his pants and putting on a black t-shirt. The fetishized nature of the scene is heightened. The biker methodically puts on his festooned black leather hat, jacket, and chain belt in preparation for a ride that will take him to a party of his gay peers. Anger intercuts clips from a Sunday school educational film, The Last Journey to Jerusalem, that was accidentally delivered to his front door. Cutting between black and white shots of Jesus and his disciples entering a building with bikers going to a private sex club adds an undercurrent of sardonic commentary. Evocatively transgressive and subversively poetic, Scorpio Rising is a cinematic rebel yell against the fiercely anti-gay hypocrisies of American culture that still dog society in the 21st century. Having grown up in Beverly Hills with a love of all things Hollywood, as fostered by his well-to-do grandmother, Kenneth Anger, née Engelmeyer, began experimenting with filmmaking at an early age. At 19, he made his first film, Fireworks, about a midnight reverie involving a group of sailors. He was subsequently arrested on obscenity charges, and the film became the subject of a California Supreme Court obscenity trial that ruled the film to be art. Scorpio Rising suffered the same fate, but this time the court's decision represented a landmark case of redeeming social merit. Thanks for watching, and visit ColeSmithy.com for more.
My heart above my head. When we met, I felt my life begin. So open up your heart and let this fool rush in.